It's not even but it worked out.
House payment that worked out.
Dennis, can you lead us in the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, Richard? Here. Juanita? Here. Adrian? Here. Ernie? Here. Full quorum? Approval of minutes from regular meeting held on August 21st, 2018.
Make a motion to approve the minutes from the regular meeting held on August 21st, 2018.
I second that.
We have a motion by Adrian to approve the minutes from regular meeting held on August 21st, 2018. A second by Juanita. Roll call, Richard? 4. Juanita? 4. Adrian? 4. Ernie? 4. Motion passes. Approval of minutes from special meeting held on August 30th, 2018.
I make a motion to approve the minutes of the special meeting held on August 30th, 2018.
We have a motion by Adrian to approve the minutes from special meeting held on August 30th, 2018. A second by Richard. Roll call, Richard? 4. Juanita? 4. Adrian? 4. Ernie? 4. Okay, approval of agenda for September 4th, 2018, tonight's regular meeting.
Make a motion to approve of agenda for September 4th, 2018 regular meeting.
Second that motion.
I have a motion by Ernie to approve tonight's agenda for August 4th, 2018. A second by Juanita. Roll call, Richard? 4. Juanita? 4. Ernie? Adrian?
4.
Ernie?
4. I'm gonna oppose myself, please. We're good.
We just need that for the approval of the voucher list.
Just one question. This correction of the prisoners, is that for the prisoners that we have at Santa Fe County?
I'm not exactly sure what that charge is for, but we do pay, and it may be, I think. But honestly, I don't know. I can figure it out and read it to you next meeting.
Yeah.
I'll make a motion for approval of the voucher list.
I have a motion by Ernie to approve the voucher list, a second by Richard. Roll call, Richard? 4. Juanita? 4. Adrian? 4. Ernie? Motion passes. No other business at this time. And Raven, so the address the town council, she's not here, so let's move on from her. We'll move on to item number 11, approval to do hose and ladder test for fire department. Chief Nelson?
Good evening, Mayor, council members, Dennis. On that hose, same thing we did last year on that hose and ladder testing. They came and did, it actually didn't go over the 1,500, but I don't want it to go over and it has not, been an issue that we didn't get it approved first. So they charge us by per foot of hose that they test, I think. And then the ladder testing that they do, they test all the ladders. Last year, I think it was 12 something, 1,300. But just wanted to make sure in case it goes over, if their rates have changed a little bit. And they had to pencil me in for the 17th, or don't get it done until next year. I went ahead and scheduled it, just because I had to get it in the books. And that's all. You guys have any questions on what it is, or anything about it?
You did say September 16th, that's when they scheduled it?
17th, I believe it's a Monday.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a Monday.
what do you do with the old hose? You got the,
I gave some to the school, they wanted some for the athletics, for training. Some of the highway department sometimes want some, I keep it around in case someone needs it, or, it's really, we can't use it anymore.
okay, I was just gonna get, if you recouple it or not, or.
No, and most of it, like the failures we only had 2 hoses fail last year, and both of them were to burnt outer jacket. So if the outer jacket gets any burn holes in it, even though the hose still operates fine, it's still been hose. And we take them, and they do a really good job. They take every hose off the truck, pressure them, hold them under a certain amount of pressure for a good amount of time, and then they re-put them back on the truck, categorize them, give them a serial number, and they do a really good job. And it's better to have one fail during testing than us fighting the fires. And I want to do it still at that fire hydrant that we did. It's kind of on the edge of the football field. It goes there and just runs down that street. Doesn't really affect too much. And it's a good area for them to work on. It's better for them to work in pavement than in areas. I'll probably still try to do it right there.
Make a motion to approve the hose and ladder test for the fire department.
I'll second it.
Okay, I have a motion by Adrian to approve the hose and ladder test for the fire department, a second by Ernie. Roll call, Richard? 4. Monica? 4. Adrian? 4. Ernie?
4.
All right, motion passes. And I skipped you, but I'm gonna skip you one more time because the next item is fire chief as well, so let's just stick with him. Approval to purchase 1 set of gear for the fire department.
Oh yeah, we just ordered a bunch of gear on the end of last year's budget. 1 set of gear, the size wasn't right, but it fit another member. So instead of sending it back and starting all over, we put somebody in that gear. But I need to order another set for the gear that was, for the person that was actually supposed to get the gear, so. And now that we kind of understand the change our size a little bit, I just want to put, it's $16.75 is what it was the last time we ordered, it hasn't gone up, it should be still somewhere around that same price, so. Maybe the same gear that we just ordered, just another set.
I'll make a motion to approve a purchase, 1 set of gear for the fire department.
I second that motion.
Okay, I have a motion by Richard to approve the 1 set of gear being purchased for the fire department. A second by Juanita. Roll call, Richard?
4.
Juanita? 4. Adrian?
4.
Ernie?
4.
All right, motion passes. And then one final thing, you were gonna give your.
Yeah, if I can
thing
get
early.
rid of
Sure.
I need to grab some stuff. On the fire report, we've had 8 calls last month. No structure fires, thank goodness. So maybe, yes, EMS assist and a couple of smoke checks that didn't really pan out to be anything, so it's mainly what it was. A couple rollovers that turned out okay, so. Other than that, we'll be doing some of the, like we did last year with the hydrant testing. Won't be testing the actual flow of the hydrants, we'll be testing the static pressure. So we'll be doing that here coming up real quick. So it's not gonna use as much water, but at the same time we'll use that time to flush the hydrants. So I'll get with David, make sure he knows that we're gonna be flushing some hydrants, and then run that. Every 5 years we're supposed to do the actual pressure, the actual flow test. In between those 5, we'll do put a gauge on there and see what the pressure is at the head of the hydrant. So. And I need Dennis to talk a little bit, and if you guys do some of the water projects you guys kind of want and have it planned, I think it'd be good, even if it's not at the 5-year mark, to do another pressure test, just to kind of see what it improved. Other than that, just continuing on with what we do, training, just doing the testing, and then what we'll be doing now, the hose, ladders, and hydrants.
And one thing I asked Chief Nelson a couple days ago, I know that there are some properties in town that have a lot of wood, and they just like old structures or whatever. And if we get some of that, I was asking him if we can like take it somewhere and burn it, and they can be out there, you know what I mean? Kind of just get rid of it.
Donate it to the high school.
He said, yeah, to the bonfire, we talked about that. So he said, yeah, that was perfectly fine, so, I'm just letting you guys know, so, I mean, we don't have we're not gonna get any, go out and get some tomorrow, but I'm trying to give you guys a heads up then. But some people have been asking.
Yeah, it's something that we wanted to do before, just kind of got shut down on it, but we'd like to, we just need to make sure that one of us or the town, someone's there to watch what they're dumping.
Right.
people like to throw a lot of trash in there too, and I won't burn trash. Same thing we talked about with the bonfire.
Have they been already starting,
The pile?
Yeah.
I haven't went up there and looked, so I'm not sure. But I'm not, if we do, we need to make sure they don't throw. Like I said, last year I spent an hour and a half throwing out trash that was in there, so. This year, if it's got trash in it, I'm just not gonna light it. There was tires and you name it in there, so. And then if we can, not tree stumps this big, because then that leaves us out there all night. It's kinda hard.
any other questions?
Do you let the school know? Excuse me. Do you let the
But
school
we have
know?
before, but I don't think the school actually kind of controls who comes and dumps what there in the burners. I think people just kind of know the gate's open, dump stuff in there. It ends up
The
being,
gate's closed now though, right?
and it, yeah,
Is
the
it
last
big?
time it wasn't there.
No. And you remember to tell, control that.
Maybe during this time period, if Kenny's going up there to the,
Keep an eye on it.
keep an eye and he'll open and close the gate and tell Consuelo up there, the gate's only gonna be open after school to a certain time, and then lock it back up so they won't go in there
Yeah.
during the night.
That'd be good, yeah. And on the burning stuff, it'd be good if we did it quarterly, every 3 months, have it planned, where we're just there all day and people can bring, if people bring it as we're there burning it, then there's no way they can dump trash on it. If we schedule it like that, it would work for us too, I could schedule it as a training. And then we can regulate what goes in and what doesn't.
How do you get that information out to the public?
Like when we'll do it,
When you'll do it and what the plan is?
We usually do it on Facebook, robocall,
then we can post it as well.
yeah. So usually on Facebook or on robocall. If you're not on robocall, I suggest you add yourself. Just call town hall and they'll add you. Basically, it's like an automated
Right,
thing that will call you.
but what I'm saying is, because not everybody's on Facebook, and the robocall is fine, but when are you planning, so people can plan?
Yeah,
You
well,
can-
we put up announcements at the 6 posting places, and we can also actually have the school post, do their robocall too, because they have a whole different, they have school kids, everyone on the
Because
school.
it's nice when we get the robocall, that's really nice, but sometimes I hear it because I'm not downtown and I don't go on Mountaineer's Facebook page
Right.
or any of that, but, I get, it's like the day of, and it's like, oh, if I'd have known sooner, I could have planned better, you know? And then just get the word out, so it's just like,
And we don't mind assisting people in town here too that have a big pile, that you just wanna burn where it's at. I mean, as long as you're burning it, we'll make sure, we can come by with a truck, make sure it don't get out of hand. I don't mind doing that either. A lot of people talk to me about that.
And in addition with the robocall, we're gonna try to do emails eventually, but we're trying to tackle one at a time instead of doing like multiple things. So once we get the robocall like good up and running and everyone like knows, we'll start an email list as well. So that way we can email.
In fact, with the robocalls I have, we'll probably emails, so.
Because sometimes with the robocall, it's hard because you listen to it, but then you're like, what day did they do? And you can't like replay it or nothing. So with an email, you'll be able to like actually see everything.
how about on the town bills, do you can you put it on the town bills and like, you know, okay, in October, we're gonna do it
Yes.
this day, because everybody is the town bills, and that we read those. You know, but not everybody does, but, you know, but at least then they can plan for it, because we're
Yes.
at the beginning of the month. So,
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
What we're trying to do is set things, set them, have them set dates. So you know the first week in October, they do that.
Yeah.
Or you know the first,
I think
so
that's
that's,
right.
yeah. And we need to do like a calendar, you know how the school does like a calendar of events at the very beginning? That's what we kind of need to do too, but.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Any other questions?
Well, I just wanted to back up with that comment you said, Phil. So you said you could burn them in place. I thought that was like a town ordinance where we can't burn in the town.
No, we can burn it. That, there's no ordinance against, this has to be, you know, talk to me. And what I've been telling people to do is still call dispatch if they're gonna burn on their own. Because we lifted the burn ordinance, the burn ban.
You can burn?
Yeah, the burn ban.
Like within like residential areas.
You know, you could burn, but you have to call and make sure that there's not a ban and confirm with that county that it's not a bad day. If it's like a windy day, then obviously
Yeah, we actually have it within our powers to, we don't really even have to talk to the county, but I still tell people to do it. Because if we're not available, that's who's coming, so I still tell people to go to the county. We can, it's still same rules apply though, no trash, no, it's just wood and shrubs, so. There's been actually a lot of people calling in, we've been getting 2 or 3 a day, and people come in.
You can tell by Adrian, he's not.
Well, I remember a couple of meetings ago, I was like, oh, why do we even have that, no burning in town? Dennis was saying, well, we have a town ordinance, because I was like, well, why do we even have this in effect if we already have a town ordinance?
It is kind of a gray area, because we actually do have a town ordinance that says no burning.
Yeah.
Then we have one that says that as long as they contact me or code enforcement, they can burn.
That's why we gotta go through our ordinance.
Yeah, it needs to be cleaned up. So what happens is basically there's an ordinance and then you put a new ordinance, but you don't get the old ordinances and you don't replace them, you just add to them. So then you have an ordinance that says this and an ordinance that says that and they contradict each other.
And the burn ban actually is supported by an ordinance. I mean, the burn ban itself, if we didn't have the ordinance, would have been unaffected.
Which I believe it's good for people to be able to clean up that way. I want to do it right.
Thank you. All right, let's go back to item number 10, Ann Ravenson to address the council about the Sunflower Festival.
Yeah, I don't have anything all that earth shattering. I just kind of wanted to check in, and I wanted to thank the town because the police were a presence the whole time, and everything went incredibly smooth. And where's my maintenance people?
Oh, they're not here today.
They're not here. Well, I'm so sorry because they did an incredible job setting everything up and getting everything down and blocking off the streets. And I think it was the best festival that we've ever had. I think it's important for people in this town to know that what's happening with that festival, it's gotten huge. And we are becoming known as a town that has the Sunflower Festival because we have a tremendous number of people who come from out of town for this festival. I think as it progresses, and I want to have a conversation with you at some point, it's going to have to become more and more professional. And I don't know exactly what that means myself, but which may meet some resistance, but anyway, because the more people we have, the more we have to think about safety and things like that. But I went around the day after the festival and talked to all the businesses in town because our hope is that it's really economically helping, and without exception, you know, it was great. The grocery store had their best day in a long time. Ancient City said he had 40% more business than any other day, or 40% more business than last year, and last year was the best day he'd ever had all year. So, you know.
Getting better?
I'm sorry, what?
Getting better?
Yes, you know, and everybody in town, the pharmacy, they were slammed all day with people, you know, wanting to go into our little old-fashioned pharmacy and have a malt. And it's because there's so many people in town. But it was it was just a great festival, and everybody who had anything to do with it, I want to thank them and see if you have any questions or if you heard anything that was, you know, needs to be addressed next year. We just had a meeting, so I would love to put it on my list of things. Does anybody have any questions or thoughts?
I was just gonna say something.
I'm
The
sorry.
music was great.
Yeah, we had some good bands, huh? Well, you can thank this man right here, Mike Hayes.
Yeah, it was good.
He's our sound man, but he also gets our bands for us because he knows who to
Yeah,
get.
very nice.
Oh, good, thank you. Yeah.
I think one thing that we need is to put a first aid station someplace.
Well, and we tried. Last year, the EMTs, has my guy already left? Carol Glade they were stationed right there on the corner by Alpine Motors. And we tried to get them again this year, and there was nobody who was willing to be there with the ambulance that day. But I agree, and that actually just came up at our meeting too, that with that many people in town, that needs to be available. So, but I have to work with him, you know, to get somebody, so, but I agree.
And I really liked when you put the stage over here. We didn't have to argue with the post office going down Yeah.
Well, we still argue with
Yeah.
them.
Yeah.
But that didn't go away.
You can
So
say
what
that if you want
happened,
to wait, you're gonna
what
argue
happened with the
post office.
post office this year, there's no way they're gonna let me block off those parking places. But we had a greeter right up there on the highway, somebody who was, well, we had a donation jar, but he also was handing out programs. And he was monitoring those spaces right by the post office. And if anybody parked there, he would go over and ask them if they were, for the post office or for the festival. And if it was for the festival, he asked them to move. Now, we've already discussed that we're gonna put a big sign there next year that says post office parking only until noon. And then we can take that sign down and people can park there if they want to, because what we realize we don't have is parking for handicap. And those were the people who pulled in there. So we were able to get them right in front of TNC, but we're working on where we should put those people, have a sign someplace for people next year. Our other thought was to have a handicap parking on Beale Street right next to the library. Because there's really nothing there at this point, and we could put some people, that would be a good spot close to the activities, so we're working on all those things, and we sure hope people have suggestions and can let us know how we can improve it even more. But we had, I was on television, but there were, we had, and actually I guess the news, KRQE, is that right? They actually said something at 6 o'clock that night on their weather report saying, didn't rain on the Sunflower Festival. So, yeah. And I had been on their morning show on Friday, and so we're getting, we really got down the advertising, and with the help of the city, with the luggage tax, we're able to do a lot of advertising. So,
Thanks to you, Ann.
yeah, okay, thank you. Thank you all.
Moving on, approval of demolition contract to receive demolition permit. You guys should have received, paper contract.
Did everybody get a chance to look that over? Got it. So there's been a change at CID. I went down to get the permitting for the demolishing the old police department, and they now are requiring a signed contract to apply for any permits. So what we had originally discussed is using the public works. We have a couple backhoes, using our own stuff to do it. But there's no way I'm going to be able to get the permit, with that agreement. But what we can do is we can modify this after I've gotten the permit. So I guess what I'm saying is this is basically to obtain the permit, and then we can go back and we can go to 8 and go to modification. Does that make sense? And also, by the way, that amount actually would cover the full job if the town did not want to get involved. So I went ahead and priced it. What they're looking at is on the permit values. I think they're eventually going to try and probably tie taxation revenue to CID, and they want to have some sort of correlation between what you're reporting on CRS and your permit values.
And just to confirm, Jesse, this demolition includes the slab, correct?
Yes.
So it'll be cheaper if the town use their backhoe then?
Yeah.
Do we have a?
So what we'll do is we'll go back and we'll modify after I pull the permit.
Are you gonna be knocking down the facade in front? Is there a facade in the front that,
No, so it's just this back section. It's the old police department,
Uh-huh.
and it's actually a separate structure. That front that Serpro's been working on, there's those 2 rooms.
Uh-huh.
Those are staying. They've almost got those done. So it'll just be that back section, and once the roof comes up, it's going to fall down. The insurance company actually had engineering, and the engineer said it's got to come down.
Any other questions?
how are we doing it then? Is he doing it, or are we lending the backhoe to them, or what's going on?
Yes,
Which one?
yeah, we're lending it back on.
Well, no, so we were
We're not
gonna,
lending, but,
you're,
our guys-
you're gonna have your guys out there.
Yes, yes. Yeah, we're not lending just because.
Okay.
Our
And
guys
by
will
the
be
way,
there
that's-
to assist in the demolition. Our guys will be there to assist him in demolition.
Right, and so that'll be the modification too, at some point. When we go to that arrangement, then I don't wanna cover that with my general liability. So I, of course, would cover whatever my portion is, and then that town guys are covered anyway.
And the majority of what Jessica's gonna be doing is mainly like the roof. Cause like the roof is like one like giant, what do you call it, membrane, I guess?
Yes, TPO.
So, yeah, so we need to like cut that and then we'll demolish and then he would.
Cut it, put a piece of fascia on, I've got plenty of closure. It's a strip designed to, so be terminated at that point. But, and then I'll be doing the removal of they're kind of homemade trusses and plywood. So, it's pretty, and like I said, that's gonna come out fast. Once that comes out, that building's just gonna, there's no bond being, you can see cracks through the walls. It's gonna push over pretty easy.
So our guys feel pretty confident to take on this task?
He's not here.
But, I mean, yeah, you take it. And they don't really do demolition, but I don't know how hard it'll be, but.
We talked about this for some time and he hasn't expressed like any kind of resistance, so I would assume that we'll.
Yeah, as a contractor, I have to be on site the whole time anyway, so I've been doing this for 35 years, and I know what we need to do, and we have good operators.
Yeah, Daniel's a master of that.
Yeah, it's just a matter
He's
of
being next to
pulling
gas
stuff and
lines.
pushing it the right way.
So I make a motion to approve the demolition contract to receive demolition permit.
I'll second.
Right, I have a motion by Adrian to approve the demolition contract with Davidson Arts, to receive the demolition permit and to start with the demolition or to do the demolition. A second by Ernie, roll call Richard. 4. Juanita. 4. Adrian. 4. Ernie. 4. Motion passes. Thank you, Jessica. Approval of Newtown rental contract. So, that's the, 7 pages, I believe. So as you guys are, I don't know if everyone knows this, but when you rent the community building, for instance, you go in, you make payments, and that's kind of it. You kind of get told, these are the rules, watch, don't have anyone upstairs, kind of thing. It's better with a rental contract, because then we actually have everything like written down, signed. And so it's a pretty big rental contract. I'll kind of skim through it. Basically anyone that will come in, this is on Excel. Esperanza will plug in a few things, and then everything will automatically fill out. So like, for instance, you would put John Doe in the name of renter. Everything else where it says John Doe is actually just auto-populated in there. So some of the stuff that we have, number one, we have the rental fee amounts there. It basically just says that this is an agreement for the facility to reserve the requested facility listed, and this is an example for the community building. To reserve the requested facility listed above for the event, client shall pay the town of Mount Air a facility use deposit of $100 upon execution of this agreement. In addition, there will be a facility rental charge of $200 due at time of pickup of facility keys. Anything in highlight, that's not going to be included in this version, but I wanted to include that because eventually if we do move on to like an alcohol permit, where we let them use, have alcohol at the event and they have to hire security and all that kind of stuff, this will be automatically added in there. Again, going through, you're required to clean the facility, including throwing trash, sweeping, mopping, and removal of decorations. This includes the outside perimeter of the facility, including all trash from your event that may have went into surrounding properties. Because we have that a lot. A lot of times, stuff will end up in these properties, in this property, in the library, and they should be responsible to clean all that up because it's not, just because it leaves the property doesn't mean it's not for them to clean up. One thing that I did add in there that's actually different is a cancellation. In the event of cancellation by the client of the event, the town of Mount Air will refund deposits as follows. Cancellation 4 or more days before the event, you get 100% of the deposit back. If you cancel 3 days or less, then you get only 80%. And the reason why I did that is because to kind of like defer people from, or stop people from canceling if they did the week of the event. Because then when we have something rented, we obviously have that booked up and no one else can rent it. So we end up losing for, in the town for that. So I just put that. The town of Mount Airy will refund 100% of damage deposit, rental fee, and alcohol fee for all events canceled by the town of Mount Airy. Cancellation by the town of Mount Airy will be an extremely rare occurrence and will only occur in circumstances that are beyond our control. Indemnity, client hereby waives, releases, and agrees to indemnify, defend, and hold harmless the town of Mount Airy, its governing body, officers, volunteers, and employees from any and all liability for damage to or loss of property or for bodily or personal injury, including death of client or of any client party, except liability for bodily or personal injury caused by gross negligence or willful misconduct of the town of Mount Airy. Event conclusion. Client is responsible for ensuring that all events must conclude no later than midnight on the night of the event. Client is responsible for making sure the facility is locked and no one is left in the facility. If your event is to last past midnight, you must first get approval by Mount Airy Town Council. Prohibited activities and items. The following activities and items are strictly prohibited. Cigarette and cigar smoking anywhere inside any town of Mount Airy rental building. Open flames of any kind, including candles. Possession of weapons of any kind, including but not limited to guns, knives, etc. Use of nails, paints, or other items for decoration that may cause damage to the building. Use of any type of illegal drugs or illegal substances. Caterers. All caterers must be licensed, insured, and adhere to the safety guidelines of a food handler. Load in and load out arrangements must be made in advance with all vendors to return and pick up rental items immediately following the event. The town of Mount Airy is not responsible for any lost or stolen supplies, equipment, or other property that is left overnight. Vendors are responsible for cleanup and removal of all their supplies, equipment, and other property. A checklist. The town of Mount Airy will have a representative complete a pre-event and post-event checklist. This checklist will monitor different items, including but not limited to cleanliness of rental facility, interior, exterior, and neighboring properties, quality of town of Mount Airy owned supplies and equipment, damage to rental facility, and proper storage of supplies and equipment. On the last page in the big yellow, so if we do book the alcohol thing, this is something that will be added. Client is responsible for notifying the Mount Airy Police Department and the Torrance County Sheriff's Office of events that will be larger than 50 guests or will have alcohol at the event. If you are unaware of the number of guests you will have, you must also contact the local police agency listed above. The client shall call the Torrance County Central Dispatch non-emergency number within 24 hours of the event. Drinking of alcohol during the event is limited to inside the building and not outside in public. So basically, we're putting the task on them for them to call the cops and just notify them that there's going to be an event. It doesn't mean that they need to have cops there. Like in the event where it says larger than 50 guests, it doesn't mean that they have to have a cop there. It's just letting them know, hey, we're going to have an event in Mount Airy. It's going to be above 50 guests. Just kind of giving you guys a heads up in case something happens, kind of thing. And then you can see the checklist. That's the last thing, the last 2 pages. They're basically the same. One's a pre-check, one's a post-check. And they're basically counting of the tables, counting of the chairs, other equipment, was it properly stored, client notes, all that kind of stuff. Cleanliness, we had a couple, actually our councilman Torres recently rented the multi-purpose building, and whoever rented it before him had left a mess, I believe, correct? So we really need to get this, the reason we're doing this is so that we have something to verify. And we're gonna have to send somebody to verify this stuff. There was recently a wedding where bodily stuff was left on the floor in the bathroom, and Juan ended up going in there and having to clean it. And I got upset with him because I'm like, you need to come and tell me, because I would have called the person up and I said, you get your butt down here and you clean that, because that's disgusting. So, but if we did a checklist, he would be able to come and tell me and say, or tell Dennis, say, look, here's this, and we hold a deposit for that, because that's, things like this are happening on a regular basis, and we really need to put a stop to it. And not just for the people that rented it, but for the next people as well. They're getting in there with like nasty stuff. So anything in yellow is basically reserved for the next time. I'll bring that back for a future in case we do the alcohol thing. But everything in white would stay the same. And we would start using this going forward as soon as we yes.
Why the caterers must be licensed? What's, I mean, I don't care, but why? What's that?
So the town is liable if you got a caterer, let's say someone rented it, and you got a caterer, and you got everyone sick with, I don't know, something.
Sure.
And, they weren't licensed, and they were just some, I mean, we know how Mount Airy is. We know that Grandma Polly, you know, cooks for everybody, for instance.
Yeah,
And that's
what I
fine,
was
you know,
thinking.
that's,
Everybody brings,
that's
you know,
fine, but if you're gonna get a professional caterer, they need to make sure they're, so this doesn't apply to like if your grandma cooks, or, do you know what I mean? It applies to going and renting an actual caterer,
Okay.
they need to actually be, because if you get everyone sick, who are they gonna come after? They're gonna come after probably the town.
And then, the midnight deadline. I mean, I just always remember things ending at 1. They would have to come to the
So
council
actually-
to do that?
Yeah, most things right now actually end at midnight. I can't even think of like really anything that lasts
You're
past
right, you're
midnight.
lazy, it has been.
So,
I remember
but-
before, it was always 1. The dance would end at 1, the
Right.
4th of July thing, you know, whatever. I just,
So the reason for that is just so that we know, that we have a heads up, because usually if something lasts till 1, you're probably gonna get complaints. There's gonna be neighbors that are like, they didn't shut that thing down to 1:30. So it's just kind of so you know, hey, they went to the town council, they did the right thing, they got it approved. I mean, I'm assuming we're probably gonna approve it if they did come and request it, I can't see why we wouldn't. But it's just so we know, and so that our police department knows, hey, there's an event, it's gonna last till 1 o'clock, kind of thing, so. So again, I know a lot of this stuff is kind of like, it's just really to cover our butts, really, and that's, what we. So, I mean, pick up a facility piece, it says that you have to pick it up at a certain time, blah, blah. We have deals where they work out where they're like, hey, I really need it, I need to decorate the early. We don't mind that, you know what I mean? We try to be as, I don't know how you say that, as accommodating as possible, as is, but we just wanna, put it in writing, so that way we know. A lot of the things is the damage, is the cleanliness, is that kind of stuff that's happening, that we need to put a stop to. So, and then eventually if we do have alcohol, I mean, right now, even without approving alcohol, people come and drink there, you can't stop that. But I think it'd be much better if we can have it where they have security, they have to pay for security, that kind of thing. And when they pay for security, if you look at the security stuff in there, a minimum of 2 security personnel are required at events that will have alcohol. This is for a 4-hour period. If the event lasts longer than 4 hours, additional clause may apply. The security personnel must be in attendance the entire length of the event. If there's any type of fight, argument, or disagreement that arises, the security personnel are required to call the local police. So they're not gonna break up, they'll break up a fight, but their goal is to call the police and just get the police there. Really.
2 security personnel, does that mean part of our?
That could be them,
Yes,
that's what we need to work out later. So that's why it's not even included yet. I'm hoping, this is my hope, and I sent her a message, but she doesn't reply. We have some sheriff deputies that are like, what do you call them? Reserves, that kind of live right outside of town. I'm kind of thinking maybe they would be up for it. I mean, if we charge a rental fee, a deposit of $160, that was just an example I put. For 2 people, that's $80 for 4 hours, so that's $20 an hour. To come and kind of just like monitor. I'm kind of thinking they would be okay with that, but I don't know. All that would be hashed out. If we can't get someone like that, obviously we can't get someone from Albuquerque that charge us like $150 just to get here. But then our police or something like that would be the next step.
So that's 160 in addition to the normal rental?
Yes. And the reason for that is because we want them to purchase security personnel, but instead of letting them do that and then they show up the day of and they're like, oh, we couldn't find nobody, and then they have alcohol, it's kind of like they pay us, we pay, we make sure it's there kind of thing. So, you have a question?
I did, but if they don't have alcohol, they pay that security deposit, they get it back if everything's okay.
Yeah, well, they wouldn't pay it if there was no alcohol.
Oh.
The deposit only if there's a question up here that says, are you gonna have alcohol at the event? Yes or no?
Okay.
If they choose yes, they will get an additional deposit. But yes, if they paid a deposit of $160 and then they were 2 days before the event and they said, you know what, we decided too many families gonna be here, we don't wanna even bring alcohol into it, we would give them that deposit back. That's only for the security personnel. And the town doesn't get that. That would go directly to whoever the workers are.
It wouldn't be considered a deposit.
That's a good point. That's a very good point.
We don't get it back.
Well, actually, I have alcohol fee. I've been saying deposit, and it says fee. So that was my fault. I apologize. I might have, oh no, everything says alcohol. So yeah.
Is all alcohol must be kept inside the building, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I thought we said that in the past.
Yes. It says that.
Does it say that in here?
Yeah. If you look at 2.1 in the yellow, no, maybe not there. Hold on. I saw it. I know it is. It was actually on the last page. where it says fire must call the cops. Drinking of alcohol at glass limits during the event is limited to inside the building and not outside the club.
So the town is actually gonna be paying these people, is that what you're saying?
Well, we would be the middleman, yes.
It'll be from their deposit, from their
From their fee.
From their fee. They'll come out to.
If you have a concern, let me know.
Well, my only concern is getting into just, it's kind of along the lines of what the state is just really getting ridiculous about the whole CRS. So technically, these independent contractors would need to have a CRS number. They would need to bill you, you know, their sales tax on labor, you know, like on that contract, $400, that additional $400, that's sales tax.
Yeah.
Um,
So,
So I'm just saying, we want to be careful not to be
sure.
employing people under the table.
Right. And we have not went actually to the municipal league yet. That's something that we're gonna do. That's why that's not even concerning here. I just want to kind of read. And that's why it's all highlighted. The alcohol thing is a whole other enchilada for a whole other time. Probably in like October, November.
Enchiladas, alcohol.
So,
Sounds like a dance I wanna go to right there.
yeah, we gotta hash out all the details. Not even close to being, yeah, but. The reason why we wanna do it, or maybe what we can also do, if us having to do that is, maybe we can refer them to a certain place, they pay it, and then they bring us a receipt. You know, we can do it that way too. We just wanna make sure that it's done. You know, there's really no way of like doing that. If someone, they show up and they're like, oh yeah, we did it, and then they show up and there's no one. So we need some kind of proof that it would get done, that they would have at least two security guards.
No, it seems like a good business opportunity for somebody, you know, all you just get a CRS number and you just have to pay your sales tax.
So, and again, that 160, that's just the kind of number we threw out there. So, I mean, it's just,
My nephew does it.
can I carry it?
Yeah.
Is that what you said?
Yeah. My nephew does a security off from Moriarty, just in Willard.
Oh, see, there you go.
Sure, like, I don't know if that's like a contract to do it, if they'd have that night off.
I have a suggestion. Maybe you have a nephew and there's other people you said no. Maybe somebody could contact those people, see if they could, and then the people could call them and put the responsibility back on them in terms of getting somebody, you know, like this person.
Right,
You could give them a list of who they could get for security.
right.
And then somebody, maybe they can follow up and say, okay, this is who we have. Let them pay, and it would avoid the city from being in charge of that money.
Right,
For dealing with those types of issues.
yeah,
If you came up with, here's these 4 people that we have that are used when they contract with, you know, you can contract with them for that.
right.
And
And I wanna-
you need to let us know before the event takes place.
Right. And I want to make it as legit as possible. So the people that we, isn't just be like Uncle Joe, you know what I mean? It has to be like, you know, someone that actually works for a security company, a cop, you know, someone that is, I guess, you know what I mean? Just because if something happens, they're gonna be like, well, you have like, not good.
Yes.
So, again, alcohol, whole other discussion is probably gonna be a long
Just Joe Small, no?
Yeah.
The security guard say, here, hold my beer, I gotta go there and check that out.
Right. So again, this thing goes through everything, electrical cords, compliance, prohibited, damage, equipment, janitorial. It has a whole laundry list of stuff that they would agree to, and we would check. So. Anything is better what we got now, even like a piece of paper that says, I agree to this and that, but I figured we'd make it a little better.
Nonprofit.
No, that is not. I think, yeah, it's very good. We probably have to do a non-profit contract, which would basically have the same except for the monies. I could probably work it out where I could put like a thing where you just drop down and choose non-profit and then it goes to 0. Yeah. But everything else stays the same, because we still don't want them to damage the building or any of that stuff. School, you know, when the school does it. Memorials, things of that nature. So they would still have like they would still sign a contract saying, you know, we would agree not to destroy the building, but we're getting it for free. So, and I can do that. So with the approval tonight, just say that and then if we approve it, and then I'll decide it then. Not the school, memorials. Any questions, any comments? This, as anything else, could be a working document. I mean, if we need to change something, we can always just bring it up in a meeting. No big deal.
It's your motion. I don't have a question.
So I make a motion to approve the new town rental contract. We just have the nonprofit schools and memorials in the contract.
I'll second it.
Okay, I have a motion by Adrian to approve the new town rental contract with the 3 items added. A second by Ernie. Roll call, Richard. 4. Monica. 4. Adrian. 4. Ernie. 4. Motion passes. Approval of bar to fix final budget. That's Dennis.
The interesting title for our agenda item. So the reason why we need to fix it, well, first off, the good news is that we got our final budget approved. The bad news is that they're starting a whole new budgeting reporting system, which is about 22,000 line items, whittled down from 77,000 line items on an Excel spreadsheet. So I whittled it all down to the 78 that we actually use. Well, somehow salaries for elected officials of $47,000 got included in there, and I don't know where that came from, but that is definitely an oversight of mine. So we don't pay the council $47,000, so it's kind of pointless to have that. So I want to kind of get rid of that. And
We should.
well,
Maybe
And
we
then-
don't.
and then there's the other side of it, going to street expenditures for $32,000, which is normally in our budget, did not get included in the transfer across. So I want to increase the street expenditures by $32,000. And basically, it's going to be kind of like, it's going to be a learning process because we're still using the old system. It's called a crosswalk. We take the old system, integrate it into the new system, but they don't jive perfectly. DFA didn't even intend it to jive perfectly. So a lot of stuff we have to kind of like, whatever it fits the best. And I must have stuck at $47,000 and whatever fit the best. And whatever, 4 months later, I'm like, I don't remember what I did. And I mean, it sounds like I'm coming up with excuses too, but I was learning this whole new system during the stress of a new election. So, a bunch of factors. So we're trying to fix it. And then I'll go to the budget workshop in November and dive into it again and figure it all out again. I may have more bars before you guys then. I may find some more areas. It's challenging.
Question?
I'm leaving, that's it.
Oh, he's not getting a raise, is he?
Yeah, we get paid.
The protest?
We'll share his 47,000.
I won't log in my car if everybody's interested, I'll log it right back and sit back down. Sorry.
Any questions? Any questions?
Freddie's in here, I know I'm not protected out there.
I make a motion that we approve the bar to fix the final budget.
Okay, I have a motion by Juanita to make the adjustments needed to fix the final budget. Second by Richard. Roll call, Richard. 4. Juanita. 4. Adrian. 4. Ernie. 4. Department head reports, police department. And then I believe you guys want to speak as well? You guys want to speak? During the police portion? Or just,
If we can.
no, you can wear it.
Mr. Mayor and Mr. Fulfer and council members, our calls for service since the last meeting on August 21st at 5:11 p.m. on a Tuesday. Officer Torres took a lost and found property report in reference to a female subject that had come to the food bank. And upon picking up her items and going home, she noticed that her purse was not with her. She did go back to the food bank and they did give her her purse. And however, when she went back home, she did notice that her checkbook was not in her purse, and she did call the bank and cancel her checking account and her debit card. On the 22nd, 1:30 p.m. Wednesday, I took a report in reference to a larceny that happened at the superintendent's office. This was in reference to a male subject that was seen on video early in the morning hours, about from 2:20 to about 3 o'clock in the morning, taking gas out of a vehicle. The only thing we were able to distinguish was that the male subject did have a distinct walk about him, which I probably know who that might be. However, visual recognition was not able to be done on it. On the 23rd of August at 9:40 a.m., Officer Nazario took a larceny report at 103 South Roosevelt. This was in reference to a female that had hired another female to do some yard work, and when the homeowner went to the grocery store to get some money for her, she came back and paid her, and after the female had left, the homeowner noticed that some of her power tools had been taken from the house. The owner of the residence did not wish to file charges on that female. On the 24th of August at 5:18 p.m., I took an information report in reference to a 16-year-old female student. She had run away from home. The reason this is an information report instead of a runaway is because she lives in the county and not in city limits. I did the report in reference just for CYFD because the mother wishes to give up the child to CYFD to be put into state custody. I did respond 4 other times for this property in reference to the same subject because she did leave the property. However, she did come back each time. And the 16-year-old is currently living in Albuquerque with the grandmother, and CYFD will be, I'm sure they've already made contact with her to see what they can do in reference to that case. On the 25th of August at 1:50 p.m. Saturday, I took an information report in reference to a male subject that was walking at 3rd and Broadway. This male subject was the one that used to reside at 306 South Corbett. He had stated to me, we did have a no trespass that he did not wish to sign at the time that I made contact with him. Officer Nazario did make contact with him at a later time, and he did sign the trespass notice. He also stated to me that he was going to wreak havoc on this town to pay us back for everything that we had done to him, and this was the reason for the report. On the 27th of August, Monday, Officer Nazario went to 306 South Limit. This was in reference to a student that refused to go to school. She did pick up the student, escort him to his class. And the student did state that he turns 18 soon and he will be dropping out. The 28th of August at 11:42 a.m. Tuesday, Officer Nazario took a crash report from the superintendent. This was in reference to a food truck that had backed up into a gas meter, and this was observed on video. On the 28th of August at 8:17 p.m. Tuesday, Officer Torres took a report, burglary report in reference to 601 South Forest. This residence is unoccupied, and unknown subjects had entered this property and took a safe that belonged to the residents there. There were several items inside the safe. We did not get a list on these items. And there is some additional information, I believe, that county did do some investigation and did arrest some subjects in reference to this, and are still continuing to do an investigation on it in reference to some other people that are probably involved in it. On the 28th of August, Tuesday, Officer Nazaro took an information report from a female subject in reference to the male subject harassing her. She was told how to obtain a restraining order, and I know she did get the restraining order because I did serve it to the male subject. On the 29th of August, Wednesday at 3:25 p.m., the Magistrate Court in Moriarty called me and told me that this male subject had a warrant for failure to appear. As I drove by the residence where he usually lived, he was sitting on the front porch, so I stopped and made contact with him and placed him under arrest, and he was transported to Santa Fe Detention by Officer Torres. On the 29th, Wednesday at 5:03 p.m., I took a damage to property report. This was in reference to a broken window. The male subject, the homeowner, was home at the time. He was in the back of the property. When he came to the front, he noticed that one of the panes to the front door had been broken. No entry was made. Nothing was taken. And on the 29th of August, Officer Rosario was working on truancy in reference to 3 other students with the high school. And that's all I have at this time.
So, Chief, back on number 6, is that individual still in town? I haven't seen him around.
No, he was arrested.
I believe he was arrested with another female subject, and the other male subject, then the county made contact with him, I think yesterday, and I don't know the results of that. But as far as I know, they have 2 people in custody right now.
On item 6, it says that you couldn't get him to sign the trespass notice, but at the end of it, he didn't say, it says, Officer Nazario got him to sign it,
Yes, he did sign it.
so he didn't sign
He
it.
refused to get in and then signed it.
He didn't sign it when I offered to
Okay.
give it to him to sign, and she was able to get that.
And just for the record, even if they refuse to sign, as long as we have video or proof that he did refuse to sign it, and we put it down in the signature by an officer, then it still counts. So he was told to stay away from the property. He didn't want to sign it, which is fine. He has, he doesn't have to sign it, but he's already been served, so.
On the individual on number 1, it seems like every time you do a report, this individual is accusing from one thing to the other, and then when you guys make your call out there, she's found there in the back seat or whatever. Is there anything that we can do as a welfare check on this individual here?
This female has dementia, and she suffers from it. It's pretty bad for her. She has moved since then. I don't know where she's living at this time. I know it's somewhere here in Mount Air, but I don't know the address. As far as I know, the other reports that I've taken in reference to things that she's misplaced or lost, she hasn't found.
After the meeting, I'll let you know, because I know where she moved to, but I don't want to
Okay.
make it public knowledge.
Okay.
Because the only way I could tell you where she lives is to mention where she lives. But,
Well, and she may have misplaced these items. I don't think that necessarily somebody really took them from her. They're items that are really not important to anybody else but her. But I accommodated her and took the report. That's the only reason that it's here.
I worry about her because one day I was actually driving and she was actually walking on the highway with a suitcase. And I literally had to go around. I ended up calling Officer Torres and he ended up going and getting her home.
I've noticed that her vehicle is wrecked in the front on the driver's side, and that wasn't there before. So I've watched her from following her from behind, and she's not a very good driver. She weaves quite a bit.
Like you said, has dementia. We don't wanna see her on television that they're doing a silver alert on her because she's out there someplace.
I've contacted her son several times in reference to her, and it just seems like they don't really want to take responsibility of it. They did have her in a home in Arizona, however, she did leave on her own, and they didn't stop her, and she wound up here.
Any questions?
I was just gonna say, Chief, do you have any leads to these people, these individuals, wherever they are, breaking windows in town, or is that? I mean, does that police vehicle, does somebody break that window too, or?
No, that doesn't go up. Everyone's been asking about that.
No.
It's not broken, it doesn't go up, and the other day we had massive rain, so I texted him, and he ended up taking it, and it looks like someone broke it, but it's not broken. It's cracked like that much, and we can't get it up, and it was raining like crazy, and we had like a hurricane.
Yeah, I was like, I'm getting worried, they're breaking the windows over there, that's why I kind of like.
No.
And I have that, to me, maybe people think different, but I feel that those police cars, as good as they are, that I think they would be more secure in back of City Hall. Since
So
because
we have cameras there.
here we don't have cameras, over there we do.
Okay.
To me, I think, I don't know how the officers feel, or my fellow council.
Is it the same key? Same key, yeah.
Yeah, it's the same key, but the thing with the town hall is you can easily crawl under or jump over the fence. Whereas that one, it's totally secure with the, does it have barbed wire?
It does have barbed wire,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah, it's more secure over there. In fencing, it's harder for the people to get to where the town hall is crawling under the fence.
There
But
was
if
a
they're
hole
gonna
on the
break
south
in,
end.
they're gonna crawl over the fence as much as they are gonna crawl under. Being that we have installed the cameras over there, to me, I feel that they will be more secured behind the city hall.
And eventually it's not gonna look as bad, because we are doing that auction, hopefully this month, to get rid of those three vehicles. I wanna coordinate everything we're doing in there and over there together. So, we're gonna be getting rid of 3 of those vehicles. And then, yeah. And then eventually, probably Ron's will, might get rid of 2, what is it, the older Expedition, the second one, like, even the 90s? 99.
Is there power on over there at the Town Hawk, whatever we
Yes.
call that building? So you could we just put cameras over there? Seems like there should be cameras on all city properties.
And we could. It wouldn't have internet, so you couldn't like watch it live on like your cell phone, but you could,
Well, one of the things we would like to look into, remember I was talking to you about, is the ubiquity. Remember the uphigh.net that used to be here? They had it set up where they basically did a Wi-Fi signal, squeezed it down to a real narrow band, and as long as you had a line of sight to an internet connection, you had high-speed internet. So if we can do a ubiquity network bridge between Town Hall and say the Tomahawk building, we can have internet there without actually having internet there. But it's gonna cost a little investment, and for us to play with it and see if we can get it to work.
I've never done nothing like that, so.
Yeah, and
That's why I'm hesitant to jump in. When am I getting to internet?
I want to ask about the individual on item 6. Are we any closer to getting that guy banned from town? Like we have, I brought the other guy's Umbrella's name up before, but we had that guy banned and this guy's.
I don't know the specifics behind the Barella thing. I have called and talked to people at the DA's office on how to technically ban somebody. You can't technically ban someone from town because that's part of their civil rights to move freely across the country. But what you could do is make it a condition of their release, where basically they are not, you know how we do the letters that say you're not allowed on this property, you're not allowed on this property. So technically it is a ban, but it's really a,
Okay,
yeah,
yeah.
it's worded differently. But they have to, it has to be like serious stuff, which now it is serious stuff because it's over $20,000 of merchandise. So I mean, yeah, so it's getting there, it's getting to that point. Before this, it was kind of like he would break into the Schaefer and then they wouldn't want to press charges. He would break in here and then they wouldn't, everyone's fearing the guy. And
Since the guy who's made the threat.
yes. I mean, everyone knows
Yeah.
Chris be better. I mean, everyone knows.
Yeah, I don't know the rules.
I just
but
didn't know
said-
the
Yeah. But, so we're closer to getting any, something like that for.
Well, he's arrested right now. I'm assuming it's still no bond. It was no bond when I checked earlier in the week.
Where,
Does,
I can address something.
does the town have anything to do with that, like addressing them at the court saying we'd like to implement whatever the heck it's called, a ban or whatever?
Yeah, condition of release.
Okay,
Yes. I believe that.
because one thing I forgot about when, you were reading your report on him, when, you know, he's gonna pay everybody back. That last meeting we had, somebody already had taken me down there to show, you know, to ask me about the dumpster and all that, and, you know, I went down there and checked it out, we talked about it. One of the things I forgot he did say was he was gonna beat the hell out of you for if we had to knock, if, you know, if we were doing everything down, and all the council members. I asked him to start with me first, please, I don't like the guy, you know, but he's already made threats then, through Sammy.
And I'm pretty sure it's illegal. I haven't checked, but I'm pretty sure we were talking, it's illegal to threaten an elected official because we can probably bring some charges or something if we can.
It was
But-
said in the sentence, you know, he was talking about everything, saying, you know, and I had to tell him, well, you do what you gotta do on your own, but, and I thought he was his nephew, that's his brother-in-law, I forgot the connection there, but anyway, he's making his threats at that time too, and I forgot about it till you read it now, I just like, oh yeah, he's already threatened a little bit.
Yeah, we could have
But
done
we
a
can't,
report
we
on
can't,
that
we
just
can't
now.
get this guy, ban this guy, we can't make a recommendation to the court saying.
Going on to that, I passed him and I mean, he does that, and I kind of just like, whatever. But then later that night, I was parked right next to him, in the Family Dollar, and he was parked out in the vehicle, and he just looked at me, and I just looked at him, and just staring at him like, you gotta do something, do it. Yeah, we need to talk to the DA's office and kind of see, I think he's gonna be in jail, hopefully, no,
I don't know how long at this point in time, it's a possession charge, and he's able to get out of that because he said he found the bag versus, you know, but he did have some stuff in his pocket that is still possession. So we're trying to get information on, you all know we have $1,000 reward out for information leading to
So
an
they-
actual conviction of burglary.
can you come over?
So the female on the Facebook page, is that the female that they arrested, or is that somebody else? That she's showing all the rings on?
I didn't put it, no,
No, that's, I think that was,
that's our reward.
yeah.
Is that,
Let me tell you. My name's Rita McKinley. Our home, my father-in-law's home was burglarized on the 28th. And the safe was stolen, and there was between $50,000 and $100,000 worth of merchandise
Oh
in
my
it.
God.
We contacted my question, I have a couple of questions to see if there's some things that we can maybe help. Officer Torres responded, and then he said to give him a list. We tried to give him a list the next day, we couldn't find him. We asked for you. The next day, he never contacted us, so I contacted the Torrance County Sheriff's Office. They in turn, within the hour, I had a police report, and by the next morning, all of the pawn shops in Albuquerque have been notified. So, one of my questions was, when you take a report for any burglary, do you contact the sheriff's department? Because he never heard that we had a burglary, and it didn't matter what. And the reason I ask is, when the department was there yesterday at those homes, they said there's other stuff in here, but we have absolutely no reports from Mountain Air saying there were any burglaries. So we can't have people come and check out this other merchandise to see if it belongs to anybody. It would be very helpful because they have stuff that we don't have access to. You don't have access to. The Torrance County Sheriff's Office was able to get the pawn shops in Albuquerque who contacted Belen, was aware that they were going with them. We have the police over there working on it. it doesn't matter whether it's a small or a large amount. They just said if we could get anything when they have a bust going on, they could contact Mountaineer or the citizens to say, hey, come and check out the merchandise. Okay, we posted on Facebook a reward because the jewelry that was stolen was handmade and everything was made from scratch. My father-in-law had ordered raw jade, raw turquoise, raw silver, the silver plates, the silver, and he cut, shaped, formed everything. And so it was all sentimental to us. Besides the value of it, it was extremely rare, obviously very rare. So what you saw on Facebook was the rings, the different jewelry, which is what we have when they found the jewelry with Vanessa yesterday or Sunday and with Chris. It was all of our pictures. And we have more pictures and we've given them so that we can prove that that stuff is actually ours. The rewards is actually $2,000. $1,000 is for the complete return of, the return of what completely is in the safe. There were tools that were taken, the welding equipment taken, the welder was taken, there was other stuff that was taken, but our concern is what was in that safe. There was birth certificates, deeds, stamps, uncirculated stamps, jewelry, all kinds. There was lots of different things. So we were able to get quite a bit back.
You got the safe back then?
We don't have the safe back. We're
Not the
still looking
safe.
for the safe.
Some of the stuff?
All of the paper documentation, the stamps, we're still looking for. The welder, obviously, the tools, we don't know all of the tools that were stolen. We just know that there was stuff. We know there's stuff missing, but because it has been unoccupied when he passed away, we don't know exactly what it was. We just know there's spaces. Okay. But we do know the safe. Okay. So my question was, when we couldn't find Officer Torres that night when we'd all agreed to meet with him, something else must have been going on. We're not here to judge or to put complaints or anything at this point in time. Is there a time, so we asked for, what we needed was the report number. You cannot work with pawn shops until you get a report number or the actual report from the police. So we could not even contact pawn shops our own self until we had that. We couldn't get, and they said, nobody said we had to get in touch with you. You were supposed to call us, you didn't do that. But, and I'm not trying to place blame, I'm trying to say, what can we do? Is there a timeline for reports when things happen?
And how did you contact Freddie? Did you call his cell phone? Well, how was?
I went to the city hall and then they gave a message that he'll call us. And then the next day I went and got the phone number, but by then Torrance County Sheriff's Department had called us.
Was the message?
And so we talked, and we had talked with Detective Ballard, who's more than happy to work with anybody or anything that's going on, and he is very good at, just giving some direction without, he's not judgmental, he doesn't look at any of that business. Been very good working with him and right on it, Torrance County, we had a burglary of Mitch's home years ago, and we had the same problem. It's the same situation. We couldn't get report, we had caught the guys then, and but we couldn't get the report, we couldn't get anything done. So we went to the Torrance County Sheriff's Office, and they're the ones who found that huge burglary bust there in Torino at the time, or Manzano or something. So it's the same stuff. This is, Mountaineer is a great town. There's so much goodness that goes on here, and yet we're becoming known as a hideaway for stuff that shouldn't be going on. I passed out Saturday in the rain. I passed out our reward notices to people, About 80% of the people came in that I passed those papers to, I'm not kidding you, 80 to 90% told me stories of burglaries. And nothing has been done in Mount Airy. We said, good luck, you won't get anything. We didn't get them to respond, we didn't get that. There's more, I mean, I know there's things that can be done. There has to be done. There can be a timeline for the reports to be done for when there's a burglary and if it's dealing with major. One man said he had $40,000 worth of tools taken out of his home or shop or wherever it was. It broke my heart.
Have you received the report yet, as of yet?
Have I received a report from Mount Airy? No. Have I got a within the hour of notifying the detective, I had a report. And I was able to contact, we were able to do Lynn, we were able to do a lot of different places. Okay.
So we've actually discussed this many times, and I was told that the report, I think we all have, is it takes a while sometimes, and it could be up to like 5 days. But we had it where they should receive it within 5 days, and it's been, what was the date? It was-
But when you're doing a burglary, you need.
No, I understand. No.
But this is an idea, though, if you have a report number, then we can give that to the pawn shops, and you can direct people, contact them. I did legwork because I said, you know, this is important to us, so we contacted the news stations, we contacted all, you know, put on Facebook, we've done lots of different work. But could the police department, when there's a robbery, doesn't matter what it is, can they give some direction to the person to say, okay, you might want to call the pawn shops and this is what you would need to do.
My question to that, according to Mr. Torrieta's report, the officer that took a report was Officer Torres. Should Officer Torres been the one that gave them the report number? I know you called Mr. Torrieta the following morning, but since Officer Torres was the one that responded to your call when you called, my question is, should he been the one? I'm not putting any blame on Mr. Torres. It's just a question that I have. Being that Officer Torres was the one that went to that call afterwards, 2 days later or whatever, I believe, I might be wrong, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's up to Officer Torres to call dispatch if that's what they do, to get a number. I don't know if he's the one that's supposed to call.
I actually have multiple questions real quick. So, number one, people are supposed to be getting, we had already all agreed that people are supposed to be getting reports within 5 days. That was an automatic. I understand that you need it quicker than that, but last chief, current chief, all said it takes time. We had agreed that within 5 days, that people would get it. So the ball was dropped, number one. Number two, how can the county get it within an hour? Why is it taking us 5 days?
Well, the thing is that I didn't talk to Milton till about almost 11 o'clock that night. He should have pulled the case number for you right away and given that to you. He could have. I have already looked at the report and cleared it with the stipulation that he needed to do a supplement for the items that were taken that were in the safe. And I told him, I said, you need to act on that right away. Don't let it no lapse in time, because, you know, the quicker we can get it noted to the pawn shops, that would be beneficial to you. And he didn't do that.
I think in defense of, you know, we took it over, we just said, we're not gonna stop. We have to move on until and he may have, for whatever reason, we got the report and we got it from the TCSO very quickly, within the hour. I had it, I can, you know, and so that may have been, and Detective Ballard had said, this is still Mountaineer's case until they can turn it over. But at that point, we're saying, you doing it, we're turning it over.
We didn't get any of the information that the county got, and that's the reason that the county.
But also I want to point out, Freddie, what kind of bugs me is it says, as soon as we get a list of the items, that means we basically put it on them. You get us a list. I think that we should be checking up with them, like the next morning.
Exactly.
We shouldn't be like, oh, contact us whenever you feel like
Well,
it.
Officer Torres was on duty at 5 o'clock the next day, was supposed to be, and that's the time we were supposed to meet with him, was when he got on duty the next day, which is actually too late. It should have, right away, that needed to go out, even on Facebook or wherever we have this technology. In defense, we're not trying to get any Officer Torres or anybody in trouble, we're just trying to say, there's burglaries and we have citizens who are really, really, really hurting against there's nothing set up for the citizen to say, we got Mountaineers Finest is here and they're helping us and they're actively doing this.
I think one of the things I wanna say is, I'm finding out new information right now, I wouldn't know to do that myself, to have a police report number, to fall under the start and pawn shops. I don't know if any of you guys already knew that, I didn't. But I think from this, we got the chief right here, he can tell his officers tonight to say, if you respond to a burglary at someone's house, one of the first things you need to do is tell that victim, I'm making a police report, you might not get the police report for a few days, but I can give you the number. The number of my report's gonna be so-and-so, should you need to call pawn shops, guys. Information is golden, and when we have it, we can help ourselves, we can help our friends, we can help our neighbors. I didn't know if you guys knew this already, but that's something I'd like to see from our police department, this, anytime you respond, or whoever, one of the other officers responds, say, you might don't have the report now, but this is gonna be the number from it, because you will need to call pawn shops if you're trying to recover your stuff. I don't think that would be helpful.
Yeah, and we had developed business cards and all this stuff, and we never actually ordered them. But basically what it was you got, the business card had all your info. They basically could put a report number, when you're gonna get it, all that kind of, do you want it by, who calls you, whatever, and then you give them the card the day of, that you take the report, and then when they call, they have all that information. Hey Dennis, this report was taken on 9/28, here's the report number, do you have it yet? Because they're going to Dropbox to him. But the ball's obviously being dropped, if they still don't have a report, it was taken on the 28th, it's now the 4th.
And the biggest thing that helped us is that the TCSO said, why didn't we get something from Mountaineer that when the officer is, when they address a
When you gave that information to the county, they do not share it with us. And when they showed up here, we did not know what was going on.
They didn't know because
They
y'all
never
didn't-
did.
But you should have been.
But we should be sharing with them.
Yes.
They're the hire agency.
Yes.
So,
Couldn't Officer Torres gone out to the car and said, called TCSO, contacted and said, we had a burglary, this is what we're looking, and then that way when.
well, here's
they
another
have an
confusing
idea,
part that I got.
They could get it out to the pawn shop.
Doesn't he talk to dispatch? Doesn't dispatch know all this stuff, or they don't know nothing, or we don't tell them nothing? That's confusing to me, because if dispatch knows, then county would pretty much automatically probably hear it and then know.
He said they.
I apologize to you because I really feel that nothing was done fast enough in my opinion. The thing is that when I spoke with him, I told him the necessity of getting it done right away for him. So, and that didn't get done, and I apologize for that.
But I don't wanna, I appreciate your apology, but I just wanna know that this moment in time that I'm here, taking my time and your time, that we are doing something that's gonna help this community. My heart is broken for the people that are in this community that have been burglarized and have no faith in our police
And don't,
department.
yes, and they don't want to report it because they have no
And that is the scary
faith.
thing.
And we're not doing anything to improve it.
And we need to do something, we need to help those, because when they went to that house yesterday, there were two houses in the shed building, y'all know where they're at. And there's stuff inside, and they said, we have no reports, your stuff's not, they found some things, but your stuff's not, other people's stuff could possibly be here. We have no reports from Mountaineer to say that, call this person and see if they can come down and see if they can identify this particular big tool or whatever the case might be. They need that, they need that.
They should have called too as well.
No.
No, they're not, because they're going on what we're telling them and stuff. It's
No,
not.
they're not calling nothing. No. As the mayor, I'm telling you, no. The town should share the information with the county. The county does not need to share the information with the town. unless they choose to, we need to share with them, no.
And I think
They should not call us, no.
I
What are they gonna do,
think
call us
they-
every day and say, hey, have you had any burglaries today?
I
No.
think they will share certain things. I mean, I think they can, you all can work together on on different crimes and stuff, but they don't see you all, anybody doing anything here, so it's not helping them. And they're trying to, you know, at least for our case, I can't tell anybody
It's
else.
this animosity, and let's be blunt, there's an animosity between the town down there and the sheriff's department, and it needs to stop.
I don't know why
It
that
needs to stop.
Yeah.
So you need to meet with Heath White, and you guys need to fix it, because it needs to stop. And this whole thing that they need to call us, no, they don't, no.
Well, I know that there were some comments that were made by the deputies, some rude comments made towards the police department. I don't think that that was,
And that's, like,
but that's an issue that we'll take up with the sheriff.
They used to work together.
yeah, yeah.
Well, I'll say this much, I got myself, that was my dad's house that got robbed, I got robbed 15 years ago. Run into the same dang thing then. It was the town cops, oh, well, we can't do nothing, da. I got a hold, I'll go back, Bobby Chavis, yes, he got my stuff back, got a lot of it back. And if I hadn't have got a hold of him, I guarantee you I wouldn't have got one stinking thing.
And at that time, we were talking guns and we're talking other things. We didn't have guns this time. But there's got to be, I've got to believe that when I call you or whoever, that there's a problem at my house, that you all are really gonna do and try to help me and do whatever you possibly can to help me get that straightened out. Because I'm not just gonna sit there, and I don't think most people will just sit there and allow it. They're gonna want to do something, so if you can give direction to say, hey, you can contact pawn shops, let's call the sheriff's department, they're gonna contact the pawn shops in Albuquerque, because they have access to stuff that, as a small town, we don't have access to some technology. And that was the most, that felt so good when he said, within the hour, I will have your report, and by the morning, at the first thing in the morning, the pawn shops will have this in their hand in Albuquerque. And it was like, thank you.
So what I'm getting from you now, I think I asked Richard, and I think he has the same question that I do. So who's in charge of this investigation now? Is it the town of Mount Airy or is it the county? Who took over the case, the town of Mount Airy or the county? Who's in charge now?
The town manager took a report, and then it ends at that.
So is the
Essentially,
county,
right? Is that what's happening?
That's
That's
exactly
what's
what.
That's exactly what's happening, and that's a
That-
problem.
But
That's
that
a
was
problem.
not the intent of the deputy, of the detective. When he took and he's got it in the report, I'm doing this report so we can get to the pawn shops. That's what he put in there, in Mount Airy, but then my stuff, we're offering the rewards, and so the tips that are coming in, we're sending directly to him. And we originally had Mount Airy, Mitchell, and Torrance County on the original document that went out, but then we took Mitch's name and your name off of it too. And the purpose of that was that one person is getting the result, is getting the information, and so that when it comes time to paying a reward of either the contents or the conviction, either or both, then we have one person he's got that information. If it's too complicated, then you get too many information. Okay, as far as what's going on, the girl was caught with the stuff and we're trying to, look, we need to know if somebody approached anybody that's selling, because that, right now, it's just possession, and possession's not gonna keep them very long. But they had.
Possession of items?
Yeah, but they were in a bag, and so they just said we found the bag. So how long they can keep them is a whole nother,
No fingerprints at that place, nothing?
so
Nobody checked for fingerprints.
they didn't ask. And nothing was, that was it. It was
That's
a
what
report.
it's-
That was just, they came and that's the only thing. So
Is it too late to try, Freddie?
Huh?
Is it too late to try to grab?
we were trying to
fingerprints
get
at that place?
there were some tire tracks directly in the back of the house. And there was just one set of tire tracks, and we were trying to take care of that, but then there was
Rain
nothing.
didn't wash the water.
Yeah, and we had, somebody else drove through it too, so.
Did it rain the day up?
The day, no, it rained, Saturday it rained, and that was, but before then, it was, we told the detective, and he said, well, we won't be there until the weekend, so if you can cover them, but then somebody went driving by, so by the time we, were able to take care of those. Because they said we couldn't take pictures, it has to be measured and all that other stuff, we were gonna do that, so.
Are we capable of doing that? Can we do that, or we don't do that?
Yes, we can.
So, yeah, I mean, there's nothing there now. in terms
Milton,
of
with
now-
the robbery case at the McKinley's, no fingerprints, no nothing, what was the reason none of that was taken?
There was already, the scene was contaminated. They had already been in the house, done whatever we did, so they were in and out of all the rooms and all the area that you can't bring prints or anything.
And the tire prints?
Just me and Mr. McKinley walked around. We go to the back roads area? I don't think we did.
No, it was very late when, I mean, it was
Right,
like,
it was
it
dark
was
when-
dark.
when we
There was,
were-
you wouldn't see
I
it
didn't
that night,
see-
you would have done it next
I
morning.
didn't see any, what little bit we could see as it got dark, but I didn't see any tracks. I even went across the street, looked for anything I could find where the grass could be stepped on and possibly a track that way to give us a nice indication as to where they may have taken the safe. I did what I could at that point, but it was already getting dark. So I didn't have.
It wasn't getting dark, it was dark, but
No, it was dark.
dark.
So then the next day, I guess you had a meeting with them, but you didn't show up?
I was, Chief Julieta made an arrest and I did the transport, so I wasn't able to be there to pick up the itemized list of what was in the safe.
But we don't got an itemized list still though, right? And it's been, why have we not got one yet?
I spoke to Mr. McKinley yesterday, but at that point, the county had already basically, he had made contact with the county and they did whatever they did. So I don't have the list itself. I'm sure maybe he gave it to the county.
When they say the premises was contaminated, no fingerprints. Okay, you go through your stuff and you find, your fingerprints are gonna be there, but, okay, Richard broke into my house, my fingerprints are gonna go, but there's gonna be, I'm using yours.
Yeah, but you don't, I don't
as
think you take
There
the whole.
should be others, but you still, I think still you should try and list what you can.
So the thing about it is if you, so there's dust probably in most places. So basically, if, are we that clean, Mr. Senor Dimas, that we don't have dust here? So usually there's dust.
Yes.
But if someone goes in and there's fingerprints all over, then yeah, you can't take every single fingerprint.
And it depends on the texture of the items. Okay, if it's something like this, I can't take a fingerprint because of the texture.
There's a lot of things you
Okay,
can
so it's gotta be a very
See,
flat,
this is
smooth.
the new kit that we ordered. We'll be able to do a lot more with it on textured surfaces as well as smooth.
And when is that coming?
It should have been here already. I don't know why it's not.
It was ordered? Yes.
I'm sorry, go ahead,
No,
finish this part of the conversation.
It's sad that this is probably one of the biggest things that has happened through the summer months. However, I still feel that if these items were so valuable, they should have been secured in a little bit better.
And that doesn't matter. Yes, we feel foolish that we left it, but you know what? It was not, it was our house, and it should not have been touched.
Yes.
Right,
And it doesn't matter,
right.
you know, what was going on. It doesn't matter. We feel foolish enough that we did that, left it, but you know, that house was you know, it was our father-in-law's and that was my father-in-law's and we didn't want it. We don't want to look at terrible things happening, but they do happen. But it's not for you or anybody else to say, I mean, you can tell each other, you know, gossip and say that we're foolish for doing that. And yes, we understand that, but it still did happen, and what can we do about it at this point in time? The other thing, and I have just one more thing and then I will be quiet, is the same 5 guys' names came up several times. All the people that we spoke with, anybody that we were handing papers to, 5 guys. It's one of these 5 guys, or it's 2 of these 5 guys, it's the same names over and over and over and over. So what can we do as a community to keep an eye on these guys, run them out of town. I don't care, I'll shoot them, it don't matter to me. You got people hurting the community that bad, something needs to be done with those 5 guys. Y'all know who they are. You know, and it's the same names come up over and over.
So, before, the reason why we can't do a lot of stuff is we find out who it is. Like, for instance, this person
Right.
broke into the paper. They didn't want to press charges because they were scared. So it's a fear thing too. These people have people fearing for their lives, which they shouldn't be, really, but they do. So a lot of people don't want to press. You can't do a court case without someone saying yes or having some kind of camera or just some kind of proof. Now, I've said this multiple times. Any report is a good report. If Mike sees so-and-so walking at 2 p.m. on Beale Street, and then down the road, someone steals on my house on Beale Street, you tie them together. But people aren't reporting because they feel like nothing's gonna get done. And I feel like in this one, I mean, you still haven't received a police report. The thing was 5 days, you were supposed to receive a police report. That was the rule from the town council. And you still haven't received one. So the ball was obviously dropped on the town on air police department. I mean, there's no doubt. I didn't ask you, is there a reason that they don't have their police report yet? You turned it
I
in?
did my part, I did my report, and I turned it, I submitted it that very night. So whoever else can get to it, I can't make it.
Chief, I've got a procedural question, and I've heard that, you correct me if I'm wrong, whenever you guys do police reports, you submit it to the chief, and the chief will submit it to the Dropbox, correct? But you would not put it on the Dropbox?
No, he's gotta approve it, he's gotta read it, approve it, and then whatever he does, he just puts in the Dropbox.
Because we often get people coming into City Hall, Town Hall, asking for police reports, and like, sometimes I can't produce them. And it's not on the
For the
Dropbox.
procedural situation, I do my report, goes to him, he is the one who legally should or have the right to give it to. I just told him.
It says in here that nobody can get a report except from the police chief. That was from your audit. That he's the only one. I could not get one from Officer Torres.
No, he approves it, but after it's approved and put in Dropbox, you can get it from town hall,
Yeah.
you can get it from, I mean, I don't know
According
if you
to
know.
this, it was only from the police chief. It could only.
Was that a finding though?
That's a finding.
Yeah, that's a finding, so
you
we
take
corrected
care of
that, yeah.
Okay.
So that's corrected, well,
Thank you. It's
It's-
working.
it's corrected, but it's not being followed through. The ball is dropping down.
So-
It was part of my report, the next day was my day off, so.
But you did it that day, it was submitted that day.
So when you were called to their house, was it a 911 that you called? Okay, when you get a report of any kind, you know, somebody ran into my car, do you call dispatch and ask for an a number?
Yeah. We always get a case number.
Do you give it to them right away or no?
No, at that
Okay.
point, I hadn't gotten the case number. My main concern was to get what I could. And I walked through some mediums, and we walked outside, checked the area just as we could. Because we saw, I mean, where the back door is, to the left, and to the right, there's slabs in there. Okay, the other side is the garage. Okay, so we had to walk through the part of the trying to find a little something to give us. But as far as the case number, when I'm done with what I'm doing, before I even clear, I ask for a case number. Okay?
So before you cleared, you didn't call to dispatch and get a case number? Because they needed a case number to be able to call the pawn shops. So the way that I'm
Well, it's
understanding,
not in the procedures right now, so he's not, right now it's not a procedural thing. He gets the case number, he puts a report, so that's what we're changing tonight. Tonight, from now on, Milton, anytime that there's a burglary or anything, they need to get, and we're gonna order those cards, that needs to be done ASAP tomorrow. We're gonna, basically, you're gonna have to give them a case number right away. Like, before we say, okay, have a good night or whatever, they have to have a case number.
You might not have been here, you might have been on site, when she was talking, one of the things I learned, when she called, the sheriff's office, they right away started jumping on calling pawn shops and stuff like that, but that pawn shops could not work with them until they had a police, what'd you call it, a case number, police number?
Police report number.
Police report number.
report and a partner number.
So I didn't even know that. If I got ripped off, I wouldn't even know that I would need a police report number. I do now, but, you know, to call the pawn shops and get everybody going. They told her, before we can work with you, we need a police report number. So that's something that he said that we'll implement tonight. But that's information to us. That also helps us. If any one of us here gets hit, we know now, hell, we need a police report number. I'm gonna be asking one of you guys if I ever get hit.
Well, that's
Please give me
gonna
a police
be,
report numbers so I can call pawn shops tonight, or, you know, whatever.
That part would be taken care of immediately, once I ask dispatch for a ticket.
Okay.
Okay, because then I can give them a card, if it's paid for photograph, I don't care. If I can have a proof number, they can get that case,
Yeah.
you know, after the fact.
and it makes it easier for them, because then they say, you know, town clerk, I have a case here, I have a report 1, 2, 3, 4, can you get it for me? And then he knows where it's up, but so that needs to change today. So you need to let Shayna know, you know, from now on, and not just on any case, on any informational, anything. If you have a case number, we're gonna give it to the people that day,
And adding to that,
regardless of what it is. They need
adding
a
to
case
that, I want it written of what he is saying that you're
number. We're
gonna
gonna order the
implement.
cars tomorrow, they'll be here next week.
But in the meantime,
Right down on these pages.
I want you to write it down, have each officer sign, because I don't want it to come back to us or to you and say, chief did not tell us. And you can pull out your little paper, say,
We have a memo that we
okay, you do that memo.
Yeah,
you
we have a
them
memo
sign.
and then the officer signs it. So-
Yes, I want that, just so you won't come back and later on and say,
Anything, anything that, any demands, any changes in protocol, anything that should go through a memo, so.
I have a suggestion, and it would look really good. I mean, it would be very helpful, because like I said, it was like the biggest relief. If if this is something that y'all can implement, you get a burglary call, you say, okay, here's the case number if you wanna call pawn shops or whatever. I'm going to call Torrance County Sheriff's Office, they will get a report, send the report to the pawn shops in Albuquerque, because they will do that. And they don't have to be he said, they don't have to be over the case for them to do that. They can send that out, but that will let the person know, okay, somebody's doing something. It would be helpful, and it will make, was just a huge relief. Our stuff so far that we know of is not there, but it was a huge thing for us to say, by the morning they're gonna have it's gonna be in Albuquerque, those pawn shops know that I have pawn shops over here, there's other things going on. So the word starts spreading around really quick, you know, and you can say, put out a Facebook page that you're looking for, if you have any pictures, give the victim things that they can do to help you in your investigation, but also not just the list, but are there some pictures? Do you have any pictures? Can you come up with that? And that gives them something that they know that you're active with what's going on.
On burglaries, there has to be 2 contact points, one with the DA's office, I'm assuming that'll be Jimmy Chavez, and one with the Sheriff's Department, I'm assuming that'll be Ballard.
Kent Ballard.
Kent Ballard.
You can-
On burglaries, we need to send them an email, both of them. This was stolen from Mount Air, here's a list of items. If we don't have a list of items, even if that first preliminary email, that should be the first day, is just, you know, basic, kind of, we know jewelry was stolen, we know this was stolen, we know this. Later on, you can send an actual itemized list. Another thing that we need to do is we need to follow up with them. I know if you tell them, you know, call me tomorrow with that list, we need to call them back too. And if you're gonna be off the next couple of days, you need to tell Chief or Shayna, or even send it on a group message. Because even I can follow up and I can call, say, hey, have you called so-and-so? That group messaging is working great, by the way.
And that's my bad. I did get busy. I get taken that prisoner. And I could have called, and I do apologize.
Well, we didn't know, but we needed to do, I mean, we understand things come up and stuff, but then when, you know, you didn't call us, we're not gonna sit and keep following y'all. We need somebody to get active and get going on it. And we will, you know, we've been communicating back and forth every day, that things that are coming in and what we're hearing and what we're seeing and stuff and what we're doing. There'll be another notice will be going out looking for additional information, again, reminding of the 2 rewards that are going out for, you know, we want a conviction. And so whatever if you.
And we have the town Facebook page, which I've been using I shared one of your posts on it. I can share anything else that you have if you have any other information, just let me know.
We'll post another one, basically another one, but it's gonna be a little bit more updated on some things and, just to make sure that we're, you know, and we need to, I mean, I think sometimes we have people, this is something we've been talking about, people don't want to share what their cousin or uncle or what a brother is doing. You know, they don't want to share that stuff, that's all family stuff. But it's not, if we're saying if someone approaches you, you're not lying, you're not snitching, you're just saying this is best information. You know, and that's an important thing to get out to people, to help families to understand, you know. We're not saying, you know.
Is there any way, like she said this, the same 5 people keep popping up, same 5 people. Is there any way to put posters up with these people's pictures?
Well, I think there's a law thing.
Yeah,
well, I mean, be aware or something, not wanted posters. There used to be wanted posters in every post office.
And the post office tours are.
Yeah, but that's if you're actually wanted. Like, that's not like,
wanted.
We know this guy steals. Keep an eye on him.
Yeah, I agree. Be aware, these people are dangerous people.
Yeah. There's about, I would say there's more than 5. I would say there's about 15 people that if they move from down there, this would be like the best little community ever. But unfortunately, you can't just round them up and take them to the one.
But we can make other people aware of what they look like and,
I think a majority of people know. I would assume, maybe not.
No, we still don't know what people look like. We still don't know that the looks, because everything is done.
I don't know what he looks like, but I'm gonna find out. I know that much.
And we know there's someone else, and, I mean, there was obviously more than one person into the house, so.
And someone with a vehicle.
The safe was.
Because they were walking down the street with the safe.
Was approximately 175 pounds.
Yeah, they weren't gonna throw it over their shoulder, you know, a safe, you weren't gonna. Or you weren't gonna take a wagon with you and put it there and pull it down the road.
Well, we're gonna make those changes for sure. It's right here in public, so everyone knows, those changes are gonna happen. We need to get the police report number immediately. We need to contact Ballard and Jimmy Chavez immediately on all burglaries or thefts. And I want it done through email. So that way we have proof, like, hey, we did it. So.
They are wanting to work with this guy. He really is, he's just saying, I want, you know, if someone, when a burglar calls, get on the dispatch and say, hey, we had this burglary, and then follow up with an email or whatever you need to do, because that way they're already going and say, okay, can you all send out, if this stuff goes to, can you send out your report to whatever, what is it gonna take? I don't know the protocol, I don't know all that stuff, but he's willing to do, they're willing to help, Kent Ballard is willing to work with Mountaineer and wants to work with Mountaineer.
Yeah,
So whatever he can do to
when my
help
bikes were stolen, he contacted me. He contacted me right away and said, hey.
And he's very good and he follows up. I mean, if you send him a text, he's gonna respond to every text. I mean, he just does, it doesn't matter, I don't know words if he's responding.
Well, we definitely dropped the ball, we know that. We apologize, and we thank you for coming to share your information so that way we can improve that. So, and I mean, there was obviously a ball dropped, and I will check up on that later to see why within 5 days you didn't receive any report, because that was something that we discussed a long time ago. So, and we're gonna get those cards and then distribute those.
Well, it's our community that needs to benefit. I mean, you guys have Sunflower Festival, there's other things that happen, and if the citizens themselves are not feeling like that's not fair.
And my goal within the next few months, just so everyone is aware, and I want a fire department. We need to get 5 people in our department, 5 police officers. Because I don't know if you guys have noticed, but you go out at 5 o'clock, 6 in the morning, there's people walking around like roaches.
One thing I wanted to add up quick, we can't get in and start helping you guys. The word just can't get together yet.
Yeah.
if you're all expecting me to be able to do the job for 4 people, I believe
No, but that's where emailing them, we would get backup from them. Do you know what I mean?
And-
Right.
And there's.
So that when we figure it out, or we know, or we get a hint, we call them, and they send 2 guys, and then we have 3. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
So that's where that comes into play. But yes, I agree with that, and we need to get a 5-2 department. Have we ever had one? Have we ever had 5 people?
Yes.
Not very long.
No.
It dissolved pretty quickly.
Well, we did back in the
Yeah, I
olden
think they
days.
did.
But lately, no.
I'm not talking about when they rode around the horse and buggy.
Yeah,
It was only 70 years ago.
We said
No,
that.
I've been on this council
Peter,
since the
it was only
year,
70 years ago.
I've been on this council since the year 2000. I'm already rooted in this chair here. But we, as my time served here, we have not had a 5.
Yeah, we need to-
You know, I'm getting old here, maybe I don't remember, but I can't recall us having a 5. Yes, we might have a 5
For like 2 months.
for maybe 5 days
Yeah.
and that, but I can't recall. Not that we're telling our age here, Rich, but can you recall if we ever had a 5-man?
I think it did one time, and it lasted about 3 weeks. It
Yes.
started.
In reality, I've been here 6 years, and they're very true. 3 months at the fair, we had a decent amount of officers. I wish, and that's all. It's gotta be.
Well, we're gonna have it.
We had a learning lesson here, but I don't,
I wanna thank you again for coming.
yes, it shouldn't be at your expense.
Yeah, I wanna thank you for coming.
We're happy to help, I just know, my heart is broken. I have never realized how much stuff was happening in this town in terms of the burglaries and the people I was handing those papers to, and it was like, it's not gonna be any good, it's not gonna be any good, it's not gonna be any good. We had broken, and it's like, oh my gosh, the stories are sad. It's just, it was heartbreaking to see that our community is so heartbroken.
And did you tell the county, the 5 people, their names that were,
They already know.
They know, yeah, they're saying, what names are you hearing? And it's, those are the names, they got the names. So they know it, it's, you know, if we could give them more information, you know, maybe between them and you all here, together.
And a lot of it has to do with
ideas.
judges as well. I mean, really,
Yeah.
a lot of it has to do with.
Mitch, with what they got, do you think they got in the safe?
They're,
Or
Oh, yeah, they got.
they've already gotten in it, then you think?
Yeah.
Okay.
yeah,
I'm
we
just
got them.
asking, because if they're still trying to work to get in it, it could still be local, but they probably.
They're, they got in the safe, and we've got, some of the jewelry is missing, but, we got quite a bit of it back, which we're grateful for.
We don't have it back, they still got it.
Well, it's still.
yeah, in their custody?
Their type of thing. We did not get any of the paperwork. The stamps were uncirculated stamps, and it was lots of them, pages of, because Mitch's dad was the postmaster. And there were silver forks, we got those back. There was the welders missing, the wire free welder, an older model was missing. We got, the gauges we got back that go to the freezer, whatever, those freon stuff, those types of things. There was stuff piled by the door to take, but I think when they saw the safe, they left it the safe and left the other things back, so, you know.
When the building found that night, the board that they centered the safe on, and 2 guys packed it out, so I know good well that's what they did. Because they dang sure didn't pack it off with no backpack.
They left they started to take something and then didn't?
There was
For
stuff
in favor of the
piled.
They
safe?
had stuff
at the
in the
door.
garage stacked up.
We can't try and get fingerprints off those things?
That stuff I'll guarantee you can't, because it's like Allen wrenches, a package of Allen wrenches, and it's in a plastic, that real heavy skin plastic, you know.
Just asking where the shot, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
What? I agree with it.
Yeah.
It can't be done. I know it can't be done. Well, they might can nowadays,
Okay. Any other questions?
Thank you for.
Sorry, guys.
Thank you for
That sucks.
letting me talk. so much.
All right, moving on, financial administration.
So, if you want to do maintenance, I'll go to
What we do?
Well, I got 15 cents.
Probably, Carl second, and then I mean, so,
Yeah.
Maybe the
We need
supervisor.
to tell. We need to tell.
And he came in around 3 o'clock to tell me that he wasn't able to make it. He was trying to make it, David was pretty sick. And the more he went on with the days, like, I can't do this, it's not. So, anyways, the guys read meters, they worked on sewer trouble, main and limit, they read more meters, they worked on signs. We installed some more stop signs, as we all know down Main Street. They used the backhoe to repair the shoulder on East Cedar Street. And then they worked on the dump truck and hauled out the dirt. They used the brush hog on West Limit and Cedar. They cleared the rocks on East Cedar. And they worked on the sewer pond. I believe they were probably screening it. And they spotted lines for a company called Cascade Environmental. I'm not sure exactly what they did. And that day as well, they worked on more sewer trouble. They worked on the town hall, running camera lines. And then they're still working on that. They're supposed to be back this week to finish off working on lines. They're supposed to be back today, but something came up. They dug the grave. They worked on sewer trouble. And they collected water sample from the sewers. And what happened with that water sample is we did actually drop the ball on this one. We dropped the ball up this week, this month. They're supposed to have collected it by August 1st, and they didn't. And Carl caught it. It's like, oh no. So he went ahead and collected it and ran it to Albuquerque. It shouldn't be a major issue because we did catch it in time, but he was kind of sweating that. I told him, don't worry, always admit you're wrong, always just face it, man up. That's what a true leader does. So he actually did that. He's like, I screwed up, I can't believe it. So just make the wrong right. Today, I ordered the speed limits. I dropped the ball. He told me to order on Friday. I'm like, you want me to order these little tiny signs like this? And then he's like, did you order them? I'm like, no, I didn't. So today I did. We ordered 3 speed limit signs. I just went to P&M Signs because I wanted to shop local. So we ordered from 3 speed limit signs, 3 signs that say slow children at play, and 3 signs that say monitored by radar. And
We're gonna
then
be moving the monitor, the radar monitor things. So they're on track, they're on trailers, so we're gonna be moving those around.
Oh, thank
And
God.
checking different areas because,
How many times have I said that?
I know, but they're locked. I don't know where the key is. for
well, we
those.
just have to cut it off and we'll have to get a new chain and a new lock, but I mean, we need to start moving them around, kinda like putting them on, like Park Road, you know, seeing how fast people go on that.
Okay. It stores the information then?
Huh?
Those things store the information then?
No, they don't, but we can keep an eye on it.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and then we put up these speed limit signs, so the goal is put up these speed limit signs, especially over there by the, like on, okay, so now that we put speed limit, stop signs on 3rd, people are rushing down Limit
Yes.
to the highway and then rushing through the highway. So one of these signs is gonna go on that road, and then that's the first spot they're gonna actually go. So we're gonna keep those up monitoring for a couple of days, like 2-3 days, and then we're gonna have a cop there pulling people over that are going above the 30 miles per hour. The speed limit on back roads, I don't know if everyone knows, is 25 miles per hour. So, and usually we stop at 15. 15?
That's what Ron just told me one day, and talked to me like an hour, it's 15,
25, Here's one that's up to you.
yeah. Well, we also ordered, Peter ordered the sign, the template to do street signs, the stripe.
The white stripe that's on stop signs. So a lot of people are saying they can't see them. I think most people see them now, but figure whenever we put up a new stop sign, we'll put it, I know Jim's been getting complaints about stop signs. Hey, slow traffic there. It's actually, I've seen it. Have you guys been getting slow traffic down 3rd Street?
Oh, yeah, it did, yeah. It took me a couple days to quit winning this time.
If you run at 9 hours, you should say,
What, with the stop signs? The light on the stop sign?
I was noticing that somewhere else this time.
Oh yeah, you know how much that's going back
Yeah,
there?
I figured.
I know.
But still.
I wanted that too, because they have a little solar on the top and then they like loop right over there.
Yeah. it's
Well, we
weird.
thought about having a car or something parked there with a camera on the speed limit sign. Not the sign, but the little thing. So the car books it faster. We see how fast they're going. We got them on camera. Just on a parked car. And if we used a spare police car, then they booked it blatantly past the parked police car.
So
lucky how many
that's
square feet
Valencia
starts.
now, right? Because you see the car cars just parked randomly everywhere.
Oh my God, they
Well, we'll
just
have
started
camera.
that.
Yeah, they just started that. Have you noticed that? Is that what you're talking about then?
Yeah, we'll do that, so if they ignore that, they won't realize there's a camera in there, not a person, and then they'll have the radar gun on them, and we can get them. So, but we're looking into traffic control stuff.
Like a modified, what do you call it?
Red light camera.
Red light camera.
I don't know if they'll send it in clip notes. You can send them a picture and, hey, we're watching you. So, yeah, it's.
Hey, Peter, parked by my house for about 15 minutes.
That's another place I'm gonna put a stop sign, is actually
They go
coming
so
in
fast.
from the cemetery. Oh, yeah, you said that.
I bet that they go
Coming
like
in from
90
the cemetery,
to see
right
if
there
they
on
can
that
get
side
to
of the,
You didn't get his first, so you better watch out.
yes, coming up by the football field.
Yes.
I couldn't think of the day.
Yeah.
By the football field.
We've
Yeah,
been
they
getting
go
complaints, we've been getting a lot of complaints from that street right there, of people just flying down right in
I
front of
bet
the
they
high
go
school.
like 80 just to see if they can make that curve.
Yeah.
You always
Well,
see
at
them
some
like-
point, it's not town limits, so that curve is not town limits, but yes,
They
if
go
you put a
there.
stop sign right there at the edge of the football field, that's right getting into town limits, and that'll slow people down, especially right there by the schools.
Maybe it'll help.
It would help a lot. So, we will put that.
And what happened with the water system today? We had what we thought was a major catastrophe. Luckily, it wasn't a major catastrophe. Our well number 1 wasn't pumping, and I don't know all the details of it, but the solenoid didn't shut down. What happened was the pump opened up, was flowing water, then it didn't shut, and all the water that was in the Cooper tank backflowed all the way back to the wells. So we were trying to figure out why there was no water in the Cooper well, even though our Cooper tank, our Cooper our Cooper well kicked on and kept us safe. Cooper tank wasn't filling up all night long. And they were kind of freaking out. They called out the Southwest and they discovered it was a solenoid. It didn't shut back down, and all the water was just like.
Is that part of the warranty?
That's what Carl was asking, and I don't have the warranty information. It's down hall. I don't know why.
No, I don't think it was, that's in Willard number 1.
Yeah, Willard 1.
I spoke with David this morning, he was all worried about it.
Yeah, we were all
And
stressed.
there's not getting no water to Hooper. And I guess you get it, but you're losing it or something.
Yeah.
And I'm actually the one that told him to check, see if that check valve ain't bypassing going backwards.
Yeah.
So that when he went and go check, I told him check that square, it's a square, electronic switch.
Solenoid. Yeah.
Solenoid, that's what it is. And I told him, make sure that that one ain't stuck. And if it's stuck, you can actually manually press it down. And now he called me back, he said that was open. He tried pressing it down and he would do nothing. So I told him, shut the system down. And when you shut the system down, the electrical part, then you turn it back on and then it'll reset itself. But it might be signs of having to replace it
Yeah.
anyway, you know.
And they're pretty cheap, aren't they? Relatively
Yeah.
compared to the whole
Yeah.
system.
And he told me that's what it was, and he stood there for a while checking it out, and he said, so far it seems like it's working.
And that's why we didn't install cameras at Signal Town Hall. Because he was like, I gotta be fixing this.
And then, it's September, so it's slowing down with the water usage, so this month, starting next month, we're gonna be fixing Westwell, when we call it Alpha Southwest Path. This is something that we approved, remember, that we needed like 45,000 for it. They did fix Cooper, now they're going west. But there has to be some, we have to fix some stuff on our side to stop the water and all that kind of stuff, like put, shut-off valves. And then once that's done, then Alpha Southwest can come in, shut it off, we'll work on it, turn it back on. So, that'll be happening soon. So, admin report?
Let's see, first I want to recognize that Juan Ruby for his contribution to the safety of our town. On August 28th, with that report where the truck backed into the gas, it was Juan Ruby that discovered it. He was walking one night and he heard a hissing, an unusual hissing, and so he figured out what it was, and he was the one that called the maintenance crew to go jump on it. So I feel like he deserves some kudos for his conscientiousness. I mean, he's always walking the town, he's always keeping an eye out and keeping an ear out for any kind of trouble, and he caught it.
Where was it at?
It was at the elementary school.
It'd
Could have
been
been
6 days
a
prior.
major,
Oh, it didn't go in that long?
It'd been done 6 days prior.
on the video, some county came out smoking a cigarette.
Right after.
Yeah, if it was in a contained location, boom.
That's what saved it, was because it's out in the open, so like, you know, it wasn't seen, but yeah, it could have been a major.
And can we do like a order little reward or something, like a little plaque for
Yeah.
That would be nice.
Give them
Yeah.
or
A little badge.
either a flag or like a,
Meeting minute on Segway.
thing to go eat. You know, like a voucher to go eat.
Yeah, I'm not sure if we can do that. We can't do that. The anti-donation.
We could do it on the board.
Yeah, we can do awards, but that's. So anyways, where was I?
You were just starting up.
Yeah, I had something else on that. Anyways, I met with DOT and Mr. Cog, and we actually walked all the way up and down Broadway and just checked out the safety study. And so what they suggested is we contact Bohannon Houston, which I have, and I'm probably going to talk to them today, or I was supposed to talk to them today, but they didn't get a hold of me, so it's probably tomorrow. And we're going to see if what Bohannon Houston would charge, and then we apply that cost into the safety audit, and then we pass that on to the DOT, and they would work on that grant to do a safety audit for US 60. Our final budget was approved. Of course, the transition, or some of the stuff got lost in transition, so we fixed that tonight with that bar. We've been fully approved for the grant for the new police vehicle, so I've got almost all the documents submitted. All we need is, I submitted the last of the document today, so we just need the full-on go-ahead, and then we can start collecting all the quotes. We had an OSHA inspection and OSHA record keeping for our in-house safety last Friday. And it's an idea that for some reason lately I've been really worried about OSHA, so I hope they don't do us a visit. So I want to go ahead and take Carl to the OSHA 10 at least, if not the OSHA 30, and then we can really start getting into, it's not that we're out of OSHA compliance, but just the importance of safety on the job. And particularly in our public works department. So I want to start looking into that. Because I believe safety and the lives of our employee are one of the most important things, if not the most important thing of our town. And it's up to us to create a safe environment for them, even where they're not willing. Sometimes it's like a little kid, it's like, I don't want to eat my breakfast. It's like, well, make sure you eat breakfast. Make sure they're fed. So we sometimes have to be proactive and make sure they do things even if they don't want to do it. I guess that's it. We got the DMV report. We've had, this is only for 3 weeks because Gloria was out to the managers convention for motor vehicle division. So we had estimated driver's license issues of 54. Estimated registrations of 153 and estimated title registrations of 44, with an estimated gross revenue of $16,328.99.
And real quick, just a few things off my list, and I just forgot one. I've been in contact with Mark Alsop from Alsops to see if she kind of piqued their interest, to see if they're interested in bringing Alsops in town. So he said the last time that they even thought about coming to Mount Airy was about 15 years ago. He doesn't recall exactly why they didn't, but he's interested in finding out some more information about the town and possibly bringing in Alsops to town. That would be pretty cool, but very.
Do they franchise or he just brings it himself?
I think they do it. I think
You can buy into the franchise then?
I don't know if you can.
Your own license, whatever.
But I asked if they were expanding, and he said yes, and then he said basically the last time we talked about the town was 15 years ago, so it's been a while. So, and then I was gonna say something else. I don't police vehicle details. So the next person, so I finally emailed them back because they hadn't responded to the third company. They did the same thing as the second company, and basically they want us to pay to get in contract with them before they do, because I mean obviously it takes a while to do like details and stuff. So in order for them to send us anything, they want us to kind of like get into a binding contract with them, and then we're going to go with them. And obviously that's not what we want to do. We want to see who the best. I think the best idea is to kind of just go with the person that did provide us the information, and kind of just go off of that and kind of see if you got differences going on, or you guys are okay with that, and kind of go from there. So I'll bring that paper to the next meeting, we'll have that on the agenda the next meeting. We'll look at that one, sketch of the police details, and we'll decide if we want to make changes, if we want to just approve it as is, what we want to do. So have some thoughts, have some ideas on the police vehicles. And that's it. Public input, anyone else having input of any kind?
Ernest?
Black Outfitters wanted a lot of our business, being that we didn't go with them last time when we built the unit that I had. So you might want to get a price from them for the graphics, because they do that as well.
Give me that info, text it to me, and I'll phone tomorrow.
I'm sorry.
Oh, no.
I have, this is not about the robbery, but, on Sunday mornings when I go to church, they have some of the people that, some of the parishioners, it's not the Catholic Church though, but, they stay outside, concealed carry weapon to keep an eye on the church. Why do we not have the police, it doesn't have to be at that church, but just drive around our churches? Do we not have somebody on Sunday mornings who can do that?
At the moment, we do not. We're down to 3 officers. So,
I understand what you're trying to get some kind of, I just didn't know, and I just didn't know.
I think they would do that even if we had officers that morning. I think they're like, I mean, it's a fear thing, I think. And they should, I mean, we just had an active shooter training at the school. I mean, it's very real, and it's at the point now where I really don't think it's a if, but a when. You know, it's a scary situation, but.
And one of the churches had an issue with an individual going in there
Right.
and causing trouble.
And I believe it was that church, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So,
On the trucks, we have information on that or what?
Yeah, I emailed you today.
yeah,
You're talking about,
For the public works?
yes.
yeah, we're still looking at that stuff.
I did a call too, spoke to Brian, Wilbanks or Williams, I can't remember now, fleet manager. I heard David today, so I talked to David when I was getting my registration.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about.
Yeah, I was doing a registration today and you came in there and talked after I saw you. But he said that they talked to somebody over there, but not the fleet manager, just some.
Yeah, the 2 quotes I got from David today were actually just retail price. So we went ahead and went to the state pricing agreement. And I forwarded it to him, and then I printed that and it was on my computer. And so now that I know exactly what the specs are that they want, 4-wheel drive, V6, extra cab, and a few other features, we know what to look for in this 200-page document.
The only reason I said anything is I was doing my own shopping and then I just said, hey, by the way.
Well, yeah, I can actually email it to you as well if you want to look on there.
I know that there was discussion about Colorado. I don't know if you guys seen, but the National Park just bought those white Colorado, the Chevy Colorados, the white truck. I think those are perfect.
I think so too.
Perfect
You
size,
were
perfect
Dodge the other day, you were like a salesman for Dodge.
No, with the department. Like I want the police to all have Dodge, and if we go with the Chevy thing, then we'll
I
have
felt like a Dodge threw up on me when I left the meeting and I was like, well, I can talk to Dodge.
I just have a question, why do they want a double cab?
I don't
What's
know,
the
I just
purpose
asked.
of a double cab?
I would presume tools, extra
Yeah, yeah.
tools.
If you're working, you know, it's always neat to have that little area right there, you have some of your stuff, Richard could probably attest to that. I mean, if it's not too much more, I mean, yeah, it's too much more to help, yeah.
Yeah, it's not for people, it's more for tools. I mean, if they want a smaller vehicle, because I think David was talking about little Ford Rangers again.
Well,
too.
Richard made the point that you gotta have some smaller vehicles to go down alleys and whatever, but if they just have that little extra piece of cab, it's really good to have that when you're working. You keep some of your own personal stuff locked up a little better out of the weather and stuff like that, you know. I'm not trying to spend Mountaineers money, I'm just, maybe you ask why, I think that's why.
Yeah.
I really like the Chevy Colorados. Really. If you guys have a good chance, go drive over there. The lights are on.
It's the Salinas?
Yeah, it's a nice little vehicle. It's a little bit bigger than a Ford Ranger, but smaller than like a regular size truck. I think
Ford isn't building a Ford Ranger pickup though.
Yeah. I wonder if the Colorado's on the state pricing agreement.
they got it on it.
No, they're on federal.
Oh,
Yeah, yes, it is the word GSD.
Well, we can check, yeah, we'll see. I like those. Not saying we go with them, but really good option, I think, especially for the size. Any other public comment? All right, do you have a motion to go into executive?
Second.
Juanita with the motion, and with the second. As per motion and roll call vote, pursuant to, actually roll call vote, sorry. Richard? Four. Juanita? Four. Adrian? Four. Ernie?
Four.
As per motion and roll call vote pursuant to New Mexico State Statute 10-15-1, the following matters will be discussed in closed session. Limited personnel matters regarding the hiring of a new Mount Airy chief of police,